Mr. Chow has a wealth of experience in both the US business environment and corporate environment and its representation in Asia, so to say. So, in addition to what I'm sure you had originally planned for your intervention, Mr. Chow, perhaps you could also reflect on this thought whether the threat that Russia might shift its focus from Europe to Asia in terms of gas supply is real or not.
Thank you very much. I was fooled a little bit by the placement of our seats. I thought I was going to be last and thinking that it would be really hard to think of something new to say at the end of 6 panelists. So that job's yours. I was going to yield the time back to the moderator. As Karina said, I may be the only person in the panel who would confess to the fact that I did energy for a living. So I'm very much informed from an industry point of view on things, and that bias is further strengthened, enhanced by the fact that I flew in from Houston 3 hours ago. So you will forgive a little bit of blunt talk. A bit of Texas may have rubbed off on me. First thing to say about Russia and Gazprom is that, at least in gas, Gazprom acts like a totally rational monopolist. It is the job of a monopolist to extract maximum economic rent. It is also the job of a monopolist from time to time to protect market share in order to be able to continue to extract maximum economic rent. And it does this with the help of European companies. Nord Stream would not have been possible without German and Dutch companies' participation. South Stream would not be possible, if it's possible at all, without Italian, French, German participation in South Stream. It does this with gas companies in the region as well. I don't have to tell people in Romania about that. It tries as best it can to co-opt the gas pipeline companies along the route in Central and Eastern Europe. Naftahas is the classic example of that, but is by no means the only company in that situation, and often, shall we say, unconventional business practices are used in order to get that cooperation. But Gazprom basically acts rationally, setting aside the political and security interests as represented by Mr. Putin's actions in Ukraine recently. At the same time, Russia depends on Europe for 80% of its oil and gas income. Oil and gas represents 70% of Russia's export earnings, represents more than 50% of the Russian federal budget. And all that revenue comes from Europe. Europe relies on Russia roughly for about 30% or maybe lower of its oil and gas imports. So the question of leverage is an interesting one to contemplate. From my point of view, Russia plays a relatively weak hand strongly, and Europe plays a relatively strong hand weakly. This is something I think that we need to keep in mind. It's difficult for an American to understand the EU. It's difficult for an American who lives in Washington to understand Washington, which does not work in practice very well recently. But we're not even sure how Europe's supposed to work in theory, never mind in practice. The impact of a Russian-Ukraine gas cutoff this winter is going to be very uneven. Western European gas storage is more than 90% full, which is why spot gas prices are relatively moderate at this point, even with the specter of a possible Russian-Ukraine gas dispute that would impact Europe at the same time. It will disproportionately hurt countries in Central and Eastern Europe. It would disproportionately hurt countries in Southeastern Europe, which depends entirely on Russia for its import of gas. So creating alternatives, creating competition in an industry that requires economy of scale to work properly. It's important to distinguish, for example, between oil and gas. Why is Europe not concerned about oil supply insecurity when it is concerned about gas supply insecurity? Because the nature of the two businesses are quite different. The gas business, as already been pointed out, requires much higher transportation costs. Therefore, infrastructure that connects with each other, regional market development, as already been mentioned, is particularly important. And here, Central and Eastern Europe has been very lax in spite of the Ukraine gas cutoff in 2006 and 2009. A number of infrastructure connection projects have been discussed and have taken a tremendously long time to develop. Mr. Konstantinescu mentioned the development of domestic resources. The prospect of developing Romanian shale gas have been much delayed. One of your neighbors next door, Bulgaria, has a ban on shale gas development. Germany effectively has a ban on shale gas development, although that might be reconsidered. France has a ban on shale gas development. It's ironic for an American to hear about Europe saying America should accelerate its liquefied natural gas exports when Europe is not developing its own resources. So there, in a number of ways, we should expect Russia to act the way it is. China is no substitute anytime soon, assuming that the project, the deal that was signed, I would say with some sense of desperation by Putin in Shanghai in May, goes forward. It will be 3-4 years from now before they move 38 BCM of gas to China, which does not replace the 160 BCM or so of Russian gas that's sold to Europe currently. South Stream is not going to be available anytime soon either, nor is TANAP and TAP, by the way, as alternatives to gas supply, particularly to this part of Europe. So really the important thing, and I return to, I think, a theme that Charlie Rees mentioned, that strengthening Ukraine is of ultimate importance in the next, not just this winter, but the next 2-3 winters, because there is no available substitute for the 50% of Russian gas that goes to Europe, transits Ukraine. There is no substitute for that right now. I think I've probably provoked enough questions at this point, so I will turn the time back to the moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chow.